Yeah, all right, here we go. The following episode of Mind of a Geek is brought to you by Inked Geek Gaming. For a list of all of our servers, go to tiny.cc/iggaming. Thanks, and enjoy the show. I really need to shorten this intro music. It goes for like 30 seconds. It's good, but it's just long.
It's fine. Get your groove on.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Mind of a Geek. I am joined this evening by Miss Amy Frost. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Kids went back to school from Christmas break today, so I'm waking up early again and trying to get used to it.
Yeah, I just went back to work. I'd quit my job and took the 2 weeks of the holidays off. I just went back to my first day of my new job today, which started at 6 a.m. So
Fun.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
I feel like I went back to school.
I have some nights where I'm not in bed until then, so that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So what's the new job?
It's another retail gig, but it's a little lower key than my last one. I'm part of the merchandising team for a big box home improvement store. I may or may not wear an orange shirt. And so far, it's kind of great.
I was going to say, is it the Tony Stewart store or the Jimmy Johnson store?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's about a third of the work that I used to do at my old retail job, and now there's 8 of us doing it, so I'm feeling pretty good about it so far.
Yeah, I actually hear that it's not a horrible place to work. We actually had somebody at the post office where I work. One of the supervisors retired and then went and got a part-time gig there, and he loves it.
There's great benefits, and it's awesome. Indeed, so far, so good. Indeed. So it's just to pay the bills anyway.
We're already off track. Look at that.
Yeah, of course we are.
So anyone that may not be familiar with Amy, she's a podcaster, an artist, cosplayer, and some other things kind of sprinkled in here and there.
Oh, yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah.
Hey, that sums all of us up. So
that's true.
It kind of needs to be that way or it wouldn't be any fun.
Absolutely.
So since I like to harass JF about it, let's start off with your podcast.
Let's start off with our podcast. So I am the co-host of the Overcast, which is your source for Overwatch analysis, speculation, and opinions. And I do that with my good friend J.F.Dubeau. And we started this show. We've been doing it for almost a year now. We have episode 43 coming out this week. And I mean, to be doing a show for that long for a game that just came out in beta, 2 months ago, not even month and a half. It's been an adventure.
Very
Content
cool.
is key.
We are unfortunately in a non-beta point right now. We're all having withdrawals.
I know. I'm playing a lot of Heroes of the Storm, which we call the methadone of Overwatch.
It's the gateway drug.
I can't get it. I'm all itchy, and I'll play some Heroes of the Storm. It'll be fine.
So what is it? Because JF was the guest on this show in our inaugural episode. And we talked a little bit about Overwatch, but I knew that you were going to be coming on the show soon because you had accepted an invite before that too. And as we talked about in the pre-show, basically that's your work in the sense that JF just shows up, talks for however long, and then leaves. And so you're more of the administrator of the podcast. So I figured that would be more of a discussion to have with you because like he forgets how to advertise the show, he probably would forget how to talk about it as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was his idea, and yet somehow,
right?
I don't know. I'm fussier than he is.
Give him credit though, because to go up to somebody and go, "Hey, I have an idea. We should do this, and you should do all the work."
I have somehow made it seem like it was my idea. It's magic. I think it's the accent. I don't know.
It takes
lulls me into a false sense of security.
It takes some skill to finagle that. But so what? I mean, I played Overwatch. I believe I played it for the first time before you did. I played it on the day of unveiling back in BlizzCon 2014. I played 2 rounds of it, and then I said, okay, I need to put this down or I'm going to be very depressed until it comes out because it was phenomenal. But what was it about the game that captivated you to make a podcast? What was it? I mean, at least 6 months before we even got beta access. Like, you rolled the dice on that one, really.
Oh, we did. It was terrifying. We talk about that all the time about, like, you know, every now and then we'd be doing a show and, you know, we would have talked for an hour and 20 minutes about this game that's not even in beta yet. That, you know, I managed to get to play it at PAX East last year. So that at least I had hands on the game. So I knew it wasn't, you know, a disaster. But we always used to joke, like, what if we hate it? Oh my God, what are we gonna do? It would come out that, you know, beta weekend or whatever, like our first beta episode, we'd be like, well, I guess this is it, guys. It's been great, but we'll see you later. End credit music. But I mean, it's Blizzard. I know JF is a huge Blizzard fan. I am a huge Blizzard fan. And Blizzard has this knack of taking games that, even if it's not necessarily your kind of game, they make it better. So if you take something like I'm not a huge fan of MOBAs, but I will absolutely play Heroes of the Storm, and I love it. And they've taken the good parts and distilled them down and made them super fun. And that's always that's the beautiful thing about Blizzard. That's their key plan is it fun? Like, they'll figure out how to make money on it, because if it's fun, that's built in. You know what I mean? They worry about all that stuff later, but their primary focus is it fun? It's the same thing with Hearthstone. You know, I play Magic, and I play, you know, the digital versions of Magic, and so those have a lot of, you know, there's a lot of complex stuff that goes into that, and you know, it can get kind of heavy, especially if you're a beginner. And then they take Hearthstone, which is essentially the same, you know, it's the same idea. It's the collectible card game, and they just distill out the fun parts, the rest of it, and then give it that Blizzard flavor, and it's amazing.
I will say, since you brought up Hearthstone, I do enjoy Hearthstone quite a bit. I'm really excited to play it on the Pro. I can't wait. Haha, JF. I know you're listening. But anyway, I will say, as a former Magic player, and really the reason I stopped is because, I mean, you know, we're both from New England, so we get the concept of, you know, smaller areas. Like, I mean, yeah, there's Boston, but aside from that, there aren't really any big cities until you get to New York. Like, there's no huge cities. So, like, being from Southern Maine, I think the closest place I have to play cards is about 45 minutes away. And then when I get there, because it's in Standish, Maine, it's like 50% neckbeards. But then I also, you know, I'm 31, I'm almost 32, and I get there and it's like a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds, which I get it, because I was playing Magic when I was 14 and 15. But then, like, I feel like I'm the weird early 30s guy hanging out with all the teenagers playing cards. Like, I just feel, you know what I mean? So I just feel odd. But with Hearthstone, I love Hearthstone, and I love the fact that I can pick up my iPad, pick up my iPhone, or Android device, if that's your fancy, and play this amazing card game. My biggest gripe with it is whenever I'm playing it, and as you being a Magic player can probably understand this too, I really miss the interactions on the other player's turn. It's like, once you hit done, you're just waiting.
You're done. You're just waiting. Yeah, I miss that sometimes, but it does make it significantly simpler for the beginner.
It does. It's a much lower bar of entry.
Yeah.
And yet the game is still very complex. And if anything, you have to build around the fact that you can't do anything when it's not your turn. So it adds
not
another
interrupting
level.
anything.
Right.
So you just have to deal with it.
But it's still a great game. I love it. I think I'm still playing through the the League of Explorers DLC that came out.
Yep.
Got it kind of late, and I'm enjoying that. So
awesome.
It's an amazing game. So, but anyway, Blizzard. We're all Blizzard. I mean, we all ended up meeting each other because we're Blizzard fanboys.
Blizzard fans. Yep.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's the tadpole is it's Blizzard fanboys for the most part. You know, some people trickle in from TMS who don't really play Blizzard games and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're Blizzard fanboys.
Yeah.
So
and they're sort of doing the same thing with Overwatch. I am not a shooter player. My shooter joy comes from, like, couch co-op Halo, like swords only. I'm going to get in your face and we're going to do stupid stuff like gravity hammers. Hey, come over here. I want to try this. Like, that is my fun in Halo. And the glorious thing about Overwatch is that, you know, they've built all these characters and they all have their own gameplay style and they're all crazy. And so you don't have to worry about running to find the gun that you want and beating, you know, not only the other team, but your own teammates to it so that you can be the sniper. You just
Right.
play the sniper. No problem. And it's so much more than a game also, which is very exciting.
That's Blizzard. I mean, everything about them, and that's what they do is, we talked about the differences between Hearthstone and Magic, and then, Overwatch and, Halo or Call of Duty or whatever the case may be. And that same thing can be said for Heroes of the Storm and League of Legends or Dota.
Yep.
Is they simplify it down. So again, that barrier of entry is a lot smaller, but they still have complexity there.
Yep.
And they're still great games. And I love them. And I've always said that, and it's funny, I talked about this with JF on Geek Access yesterday. If Blizzard makes a version of a game or a version of a genre of a game, I'm going to play Blizzard's.
Yeah.
Path of Exile is a great game, but I'm going to play D3. League of Legends is cool, but I'm going to play Heroes. I'm always going to go with Blizzard's. And that will kind of bring me to the next thing. I'm very excited about Blizzard buying out, or Activision Blizzard buying out MLG.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be a huge thing for esports. MLG is going to be relevant again, which is awesome.
I think, because Blizzard's already doing such a spectacular job with their esports. The whole road to BlizzCon, I had it on my TV. Like, I have Roku. I got rid of cable. I got a Roku. And I was like, oh, wait, there's Twitch. So I'm sitting on my living room couch with my cup of coffee watching, the Heroes of the Storm finals on my TV. And I was like, this is how I want to live. Now I'm talking. This is what it's supposed to be. Because I am a sports fan. Like, I'm from New England.
Right.
We're like obligated.
Although
I'm loyal to my team.
I haven't really watched football lately because, come on, 1-4 in the last 5 games. What the hell are they doing?
No, we're not. It was not good.
Hey, you know what? We've got a bye week. And our weapons are going to be healed by the next game we play.
That's the plan. I do. And I live in the next town over from Foxborough, so I'm like obligated. Like, this is important. This is my life.
At least
I have to know when there are home games, and I can't leave my house.
At least they're doing better this year than the Red Sox did.
So yeah, I'm a sports fan. I like sports. I like the heartache, better than anybody. So transitioning to esports isn't really that big of a leap for me.
Right. Yeah, they're really enjoyable. And it's funny now because you have so many, because it used to be that sports were such a taboo topic for geeks. It's like, oh, you watch sports ball. But now all those same geeks are getting into esports. And it's like you realize it's just the digital version of what you used to make fun of us for watching. Yeah. Like, that's all it is.
We can like both. It's okay, guys.
People with big heads and big egos competing for too much money.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Yep. But it just happens to be that most of them are Korean, and that's okay. They're better at the games than us. But no, back to what you said. No, Overwatch and having that be the shooter that isn't a shooter, is amazing. And I like it because as a Call of Duty player, and I'm I'm part of the Blizzard fanboy is I'm an Activision fanboy as well, and I get the new Call of Duty every year. I have a group of friends I play it with, and we all suck at it, and we have fun. But I am typically a strategic player. If we're playing search or headquarters, I'm always grabbing the goal, the objective.
Right.
And that's what makes me excited about Overwatch, because
that's what I love about it.
I can be a healer. I can be, I can be the turret guy. I can do all these other things. Or if I want to be Tracer, I can be Tracer and I'm attacking, but that's not my goal isn't to get in there and take the person down. I'm a distraction.
Right.
And it's just...
Yeah, it's all... The fact that they're all objective based, that there is no deathmatch. It is not about how many guys you can kill. I flippin' love that. Like, if I don't get a medal on objective on, like, when I'm playing a character that's, good at that sort of thing, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm like, well, I didn't do my job.
Right.
I need to step up my game.
And there's just...
I used to work for Rockstar. I did QA.
Nice.
On Red Dead Redemption, specifically. And we used to have Call of Duty nights back in the day. And I'm terrible. I am terrible. And my job for my team was to jump around in the middle of the field and draw sniper fire so that they could see where it was coming from, so that they could go get the snipers. This was my entire job.
So you were kind of like the training dummy prop.
Yeah, I was. And they would pat me on my head and say, good job. Here's your pizza.
Well, that works. You need to, I'm instructing you right now, you need to write into at least one friend that you may still have working at Rockstar and tell them that we need an HD remake of Red Dead Redemption on the PS4 and Xbox One.
Okay. I'll get on that. My friend of 20 some odd years is still there, so, I'll get in there.
Actually, even better, a Red Dead 3 for modern consoles and PC would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, my name's not going to be in the book for that one. So let's,
No, but you can still be the person that gets the ball rolling.
I'll get it done.
Those of us that know you will still give you credit.
You'll know that it was me.
Right.
All right.
Now it will just magically come along in 4 years and you'll take credit for it.
I will.
You'll be like, oh yeah, sure. I emailed them, of course.
I did that. Obviously. Doing it right now.
So aside from podcasting, one of your other passions or podcasting and Blizzard games, one of the other passions is cosplay.
Yeah.
And you've recently started a cosplay company, I guess is how you would label that.
Yeah.
How's that going? How was that transition? How was getting that off the ground? How did that work out for you?
All right. So, I mean, I've basically loved playing dress up my entire life. Halloween was huge at our house growing up. I think you're probably at the tail end of it because you're a little younger than I am. But I grew up in the golden age of Halloween. You know what I mean? Like you went out when it started to get dark and you stayed out till all the porch lights were out. You know what I mean? Like that was the heyday.
Yeah, I get it. I was always the kid that told my mom not to waste the money on the costume and just buy me the candy and save the walk. Once again, we're in New England.
We are.
So it's impossible to be Batman unless you're like Batman with a winter coat. Like you can be like Alaskan Batman.
Well, that was the beautiful thing. My mom always made my costumes. And so like warm was frequently built in,
right?
Which was awesome. I remember one year it poured and my costume basically melted. But, we were there. We were out there. So I dress up was always my thing. I did a lot of theater in middle school and high school. And then I graduated high school and it's like, well, I guess I don't really have an excuse to dress up anymore. This is terrible. I'm not a fan. So I started going to the Ren Fair because that is where you can get
started going to the what?
To the Ren Fair. King Richard's. It's a good time.
Oh, okay.
Scenic Carver, Massachusetts. And so that was like my new Halloween. My one day a year to get dressed up and go out and have fun and whatever.
That's like one of those like medieval things.
Oh yeah, jousting and turkey legs and.
Oh, nice! I didn't know that there was one of those close to this.
Yeah,
area.
so it's kind of on the way of the Cape. You know what I mean? Like it's down this way. It's very swampy, cranberry bogs everywhere. Right. That kind of part of the state. And I'd always wanted to go when I was a kid, and it's a little pricey, and it was far away from where I was growing up. So I never got to go. So I was a grown up, and I was like, hey, I want to go. I'm like, all right,
well that works.
Let's go. Oh, great. So now I take my parents. My mom was like gung ho. She was all for dressing up. My dad was like really like I don't want to do it. I don't want. Now he's like he starts growing his beard out like 3 months in advance. Totally into it.
That sounds
so people
a lot of fun.
People wonder where I get it from, and I go, no, look, just it's fine.
Right.
This is genetics. I can't fight this. So I also, when PAX came to Boston for PAX East, that was sort of my first convention.
Right.
And I met Bill Duran, the cosplay prop builder guy of the Tadpool, at 1 year. And, so, all right, great. Here's another excuse for me to dress up. Why not? And I'm always looking for one more chance to make something. I have my degree in sculpture. So, making things, it's kind of what I enjoy.
Right.
So making costumes for a living is not exactly viable. It's certainly not an easy way to do it. So I'm taking a slightly different approach.
Okay.
And what I'm making are I call it instant cosplay. Tagline is just add nerd. So there are days when, you're going to the convention and maybe you don't want to wear, your full Arthas armor,
because who
whatever.
does?
Like, Sunday, like nobody dresses up on Sunday.
I'm
at
sure
the
even
convention.
Arthas
That's your
gets
chill
sick of
day.
wearing it.
You're going to find bargains at the booths and, you're just going to hang out. But, maybe you want a little something extra to go with your nerdy t-shirt. So I started making sort of accessories. I started out by thinking, what I buy? And every year at the Renaissance Fair, I buy like these horns and tails and crazy stuff. So I started out with those. I have horns, and then I have like little top hats, and I did Doctor Who ones that sell like crazy and stuff like that. I do steampunk goggles because I love steampunk. So that sort of became my thing. And at Nerdtacular, Frog Pants convention this year, I had a space at the Tadpool art shop.
Nice.
And yeah, it went really, really well. It was sort of an experiment. I had no idea.
Right.
I'm getting ready to go, and I was like, I don't know how much stuff to bring.
Right.
I don't know I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, this could be a complete failure. I could be dragging all of this stuff back home. And it turned out to be a pretty good success.
Nice.
Instead. So now is the time. It's this weird situation right now where I could viably make a career out of being myself on the internet. So I figure I might as well go for it.
And I would say, this is probably, you're still in the early stages of it to where it's viable to make a career out of it.
Right.
Because it's at that point where I'm sure the market's saturated, but it's not overly saturated. And there's still enough space to where if you are good enough, people can pick you out of the crowd.
Yeah.
Unlike trying to make a career podcasting where there's billions of people doing it.
Yeah. Are you cereal? Then tough.
Right. Yeah. Well, either cereal or frog pants, one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not cutting it.
But no, it's it's a hobby and it's fun. But no, that's really cool. It's great to have something you're passionate about potentially be a career.
Yeah.
And it must be exciting.
It was sort of this, I have this hobby and how can I keep doing this hobby and, enjoy it and, or how can I make this hobby pay for itself? And then it's, well, wait, maybe you could do a little bit more than that.
Right. Exactly. And yeah, that's a big goal is getting it to pay for itself.
Oh yeah.
And then if you can profit beyond that, or at least so you're covering the cost of things and things like that.
Right. And I mean, it's to the point now where game companies, they find cosplayers and they look at the Overwatch announcement at BlizzCon. There were cosplayers for Overwatch there.
Right.
And that's what these people do. I've watched now, I follow a lot of the cosplayers on Facebook, which is an awesome thing because you get to see, so much process and how everybody does everything.
Right.
And I've seen so many of them transition from this is my cool hobby and I do it on the weekends and I stay up too late working on stuff and I'm going to go to the convention too. So I just quit my job and now I'm a cosplayer. Yeah.
I would love to be, right. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the room with either the person's significant other or the person's parents going, I just quit my career and I'm going to dress up as a video game character for the rest of my life. That's going to be my career now. I
got to tell you, my mom would buy me dinner. She'd be like, that's awesome. Let's go out.
Well, right. But so we're polar opposites in that aspect. And I get the whole oh yeah, I live stream and I podcast and, we have a Patreon and we humbly, we make enough to cover the cost of the shows and stuff like that. And she goes, people pay to listen to you talk. She goes, how do you go from that? How do you go from people telling you to shut up all the time to people paying you to talk?
Well, that was the thing. I didn't, before I got into podcasts, my mom always used to listen to talk radio and I could never understand how she could just listen to somebody talk all day. And then I found podcasts and I was like, oh, I just didn't give a shit what they were talking about.
Right, exactly.
Oh, now I get it.
I do. I love talk radio. I end up listening, before I discovered podcasts, I listened to talk radio before, over music. I would listen to, the Jim Rome show for sports. Free beer and hot wings was a frequent of mine. I always try and go to their live things when they're here, although I'm always usually busy or whatnot. But they're a great thing to listen to. And then, I discovered Frog Pants and, listening to them and everything that Scott does is just ridiculous. And that's actually what got me into podcasting. I geeked out really bad when I met him and Garrett at BlizzCon back in 2014, because those were my two big inspirations. I love everything Garrett does and I love everything Scott does. And I'm like, you guys are the reason I podcast. And it was really amazing. And yeah, it's just you get on here, you talk, people interact, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then, I know we've had a discussion about this in the podcasting group that we're in, but we're talking about listener numbers. Do you check your numbers? Yeah, I check my numbers. You know what? It's kind of cool.
It is. It is.
We dorked out when we had 25 listeners. We're we don't know 25 people. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is I was fortunate. I've had a couple big guests, actually, because just last week I had Garrett on this show. Yep. And then late 2014, excuse me, shortly after BlizzCon, Justin Robert Young joined us on Geek Access.
Oh yeah.
And that was a lot of fun because he is a
Yep.
wild
He's a
character.
riot.
Yeah.
He was in the room across the hall from me at Nerdtacular in 2014, and I'm like in my room trying to do something, whatever. I hear like this mad commotion in the hall. I just open my door and there's Justin Robert Young standing there. I was like, oh,
That explains it.
Just shut the door.
Night attacks across the street. That explains it.
Yep.
But he had made a good point, and he was like, you know what? Whether you have one listener or 10 listeners or 1,000 listeners or whatever your numbers may be, or if you get to like Scott's numbers of like hundreds of thousands of downloads an episode, he goes, even if you have 5, that's 5 people that enjoy.
Right.
Think about having like if you had 5 people in your house listening to you talk for an hour. You'd have 5.
That's still pretty good.
Well, right, exactly. So anything more than that, like you got to think that. Yeah, you may not be in person, but go back 50 years and you're trying to have a conversation with 25 people.
Yeah.
Like usually when you get that one person in the party who's doing all the talking, they're the annoying one. and now when you have 25 people listening to you, you're the one in the party doing all the talking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really interesting thing, and it's very humbling to be considered entertaining enough to where people are willing to listen to you.
Oh yeah, I stress content all the time, like especially now that we're in this downtime, and I'm like, we gotta put something good out. Like Jeff would be like, let's just record a show. I'm like, what are we gonna talk about? I don't know. We always figure it out. Yes, we figure it out because I spend hours stressing on the internet looking for any little grain of information about this game.
This week on the Overcast, we're talking about Heroes of the Storm. Strap in.
It's fine.
Tangent. I think very few Blizzard players like just one Blizzard game.
Yeah.
And odds are, if you know about Overwatch and you're excited about Overwatch, you probably already play a Blizzard game. So
right. I don't know how many. I mean, now that's their goal now. Like that's what their marketing plan has started heading towards, is grabbing those people that aren't already Blizzard fans.
Right.
And I mean, so far they're doing a fairly good job. I mean, because this is going to be so much more than just the game. They've already announced that they have the graphic novels and they're doing animated shorts, and so they're building this whole world about it. And I like that it's growing sort of together.
Right.
Because I do read the World of Warcraft books. I enjoy them. They're sort of my guilty pleasure summer beach reads. But like that sort of came out of the game. Whereas this whole multimedia thing that's building up around Overwatch is like super cool.
Indeed. And I'm waiting for Winston brand peanut butter.
I want it.
That's what I want.
I'm so glad that it's like those pieces, because I was mad about it at first. I was like, I need to know about this peanut butter. And then they show that little animatic from the short, and it's like him with the peanut butter. I was like, I'm good.
Like
thanks,
the baby Winston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
baby
that
Winston
was. I have that
butter.
saved.
I was like, that's all I needed.
It was perfect. But no, there's just something about what Blizzard does. I mean, look at this. Like, we started off with about the podcast, and we went to your cosplay, and now we're back to talking about Blizzard. Yep. And that's what it's been. I mean, lately we've been doing that with Star Wars, but aside from that, it's either Star Wars or Blizzard, and that's just what Blizzard does. They don't release crap. And
no,
you look at Project Titan, which was scrapped after who knows how many millions of dollars and thousands, if not tens of thousands of man hours went into it. And they're like, nope, it's not fun. Get rid of it. I mean, look how...
That's actually what we talk about on this week's show, so you guys will all have to download it to hear us talk about Project Titan.
Well, there you go. But I mean, and the same thing with Diablo 3. I mean, look how long we waited for Diablo 3.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just because they were never happy with it, so they scrapped it and started from scratch. Scrapped it, and that's just what Blizzard does. Mm-hmm. Because... the majority of users. I mean, everyone's gonna have something to bitch about. But as long as the majority
that's what we
of
do
users
on the internet.
As long as the majority of users are happy. I mean, look, the Diablo 3 auction house is the perfect example. That was a great means for them to make money, and they made plenty of it. There were a lot of sales, but they were like, nope, we don't care how much money we're making off it. The players aren't happy. We're getting rid of it.
Right.
And that's what you get with an honest company.
And that's the other beautiful thing about Blizzard, is that they are not afraid of innovation.
No.
I mean, and who else is trying these crazy things? And they don't always work, like the Real Money Auction House, or, like the big events that used to happen before expansions in World of Warcraft. most notably the zombie invasion, which people like. There's this very vocal group that hated it.
Oh, I absolutely hated it.
Did you?
Yeah.
See, you're one of them.
I was like, I just want to be in Shatrath and not get killed. That's all I want.
No.
It's like we're trying to do Black Temple, people. Leave us alone.
It was amazing. Shut your mouth. But look how innovative that was. Who else was doing stuff like that?
Well, no, and it certainly was. And you know, the people, those of us that joined the group with me, the vocal minority for hating that, you know, there's another group that hates Heroes because they're breaking MOBAs. They're not following the cookie cutter recipe. And it's like, that's what they do. And that's why it's so fun, because that's what you have to do. Because otherwise it would just be, oh, look, it's a League of Legends clone that less people play. I'm just going to go play League of Legends.
Right.
So, and besides, the genre started in their backyard. They have every right to redefine it. You know, it was a Warcraft 3 mod. So, and I'm sure they kick themselves in the ass every day for not going, oh, shit, why didn't we think of that? But, I mean, that's what Valve did with, you know, for example, with Counter-Strike. You look at Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike was a mod. And as opposed to let somebody else run with it, they're like, all right, we're going to make this our game. And I think Blizzard just maybe wasn't in that mindset at that point. They didn't realize where the market was going. I mean, you know, esports weren't really a thing back then. They were there, but not huge. I mean, Counter-Strike's been around in esports forever, but we weren't even calling them esports. They were just Counter-Strike competitions.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, you know, a spelling bee and Counter-Strike. Like, it was just random things that, you know, 5 people went to.
Right.
And, you know, and you might win $20.
Why not? You know.
But no, it's great. It's and you know, it's a great time to be a geek, and it's a great time to
such a great time
do the. I mean, you know, look back 20 years and go, look, you know, we can play video games competitively. We can make a career out of that. We can dress up as our favorite characters, and we can make a career out of that.
Like what? Come on.
It's like, or we can talk to random people on the internet, and we can make a career out of that. It's like it's really amazing what the world has brought to us as geeks, and there's something to geek out about, whether it be real sports or fake sports, or you know, you can geek out about everything.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
But you also mentioned that you were an artist too, and obviously as far as designing your cosplay things, that is an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
What type of other art do you do?
I'm actually a sculptor. I have my bachelor's of fine arts with my concentration in sculpture. That's what I love. That's my like I sculpt things, and people say I don't know how you can do that. I don't. Especially it'll be people who can draw will say that. I'll be like, oh, you sculpt. I can't sculpt. And I go like, well, you make things look 3D. Like you draw them and you make them look 3D. You know how I make them look 3D? I just make it. Like, look, there it is. Now it's 3D. Like I did it.
Do you feel your art form becoming obsolete with 3D printers?
I do not. Quite the opposite, actually. I do wish I was better with 3D modeling software, though. I know that 3D scanners exist.
Right.
If that could be a little more.
I was going to say, yeah, you could.
That'd be sweet.
You could craft something and then scan it into the computer and then just print replicas of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a believer that any art form can ever be obsolete. You know, it's just a matter of what you particularly enjoy doing. And I mean, if I can sculpt something and then instead of, you know, making a 12-part mold and casting them in resin, if I can just scan it and print it to make copies, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right.
You know, every bit of technology can be adapted and like fed into the system that already exists.
So more so like, so where certain art forms don't become obsolete, but maybe just certain techniques might become obsolete and you just find new ways
or
to do
it's,
them.
you know, there's a purpose for everything. I mean, you know, I'm a fan of the old ways. That's one of the things I love. I have a blog. I haven't updated it in years, but it'll be coming back. I cook and I sew and I do all of these things by hand, like things that no one should do by hand. I mean, I make my own marshmallows. Like no one should. Why am I making marshmallows from scratch? I make grenadine. What? Who does this? But I'm a fan of preserving those old ways. I always say that like if I, you know, became independently wealthy, if I, you know, hit the lottery or whatever, I'd be this patron of dying arts. Because like all this cool stuff like wrought ironwork, like that is dying. Like there are fewer and fewer people who know how to do that. And it's, you know, because you don't need it. And I think to some extent it's shifting now, but there was that time where if it wasn't absolutely necessary, it wasn't really a priority. And so while we're starting to get a backlash to, sort of preserving these old ways of thinking, if I had the money, that's what I would do. Be a patron of the arts and, everything. I take up falconry, like what, crazy stuff.
Makes sense.
It'd be so eccentric.
All right. So I just popped over to the Twitch chat because I like to try and say, hey, come to the live page so we can use the good moderated chat. But somebody had asked which were the very first video games that we have played. So where you're the guest, I'll let you answer that first.
Duck Hunt. So when I was in my family's a little weird. I have an older brother and sister who are 17 and 18 years older than I am. And so we have this huge age gap. So when I was in first grade, I got the chicken pox. And they said, all right, Mom, we're going out for a little bit. We'll be back. My mother said, don't buy her anything. No, Ma, no, we're not going to get her anything. So they came back with a Nintendo Entertainment System with Rob the Robot. What's up? So yeah, Duck Hunt, Mario, Super Mario Brothers, and Gyromite. That's where it started, really. I mean, I played Parsec on like my TI back in the day, but wasn't any good at it. Like get to the first docking bay and just poof. It's 1985 for any of you that were wondering.
I'm sure we had an Atari in the house, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I know we had an NES in the house. Yeah. I'm sure the first thing I probably played was like Mario or something, or maybe Pong. Yeah. I don't know. But as far as the first game I remember, and it's interesting because I look back and I can vividly remember the game. Like obviously I remember Mario, but that's because we see it every year. But for a game that hasn't been remastered or redone that I can remember, I would have to probably say Solomon's Key on the NES.
Yeah.
Which was a really, really impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Back when video games weren't forgiving.
Right.
Oh, JF says that he played Parsec. He goes, holy shit, he thought he imagined that game.
No. Parsec was real, but we're old, so that's the problem.
Apparently, I have to pay attention to Twitch chat because that's where everybody's talking. Hey, Corey, how's it going?
So yeah, that was the beginning, and then I kind of after my NES, I didn't own another console till I had a PS2.
Wow, big gap.
I was a PC gamer exclusively. I was a middle school girl. I played The Sims. I was like contractually obligated. I mean, really.
I remember The Sims. I wish they were more successful with bringing it multiplayer because I think that game would have been amazing multiplayer. But The Sims Online was horrible.
Oh yeah, it was bad. They put out a medieval one that was absolutely incredible because it sort of had quests and things for you to do. Because I mean, that was always the thing with The Sims, right? It was like your sandbox where you could just build your little family and whatever, and it was great. But they sort of added this extra element to it in The Sims Medieval that, you had things to do. It was like, oh, there's this evil wizard and da da da. And so you could still, put down your new carpet and like rearrange your wizard's like tower or whatever. But, you had a purpose. Ultimately, you could do stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed the original Sims and Sims 2. I think 3 was good. I didn't bother with 4. I think the thing with Maxis, or makes us, however anybody says it. I think the thing you can comfortably say is once EA bought them, they went to complete shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
look
at
they did.
The most recent SimCity. It looked pretty, but it was complete garbage.
Yeah.
Corey's saying it's all about Alone in the Dark on DOS.
I used to do, I did the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text game. And it was like print screen on, my dot matrix printer with the pages that are all connected, and I had like this stack of them all connected because if you screwed up, you had to go back and start over.
Right.
Like there was no save point. So I had my stack of paper so I could see what I did and go back and do it again. I still haven't beaten it. It's actually available. Like there's like, I forget, one of the archiving type sites has all the old text games and that's one of them. And I was like, I'm going back. You got to get the dressing gown. You got to get the aspirin out of the pocket. And then you go west. I know that much.
All right, and we have another question. The active chat room tonight. I like it. Thanks,
Wow.
guys. Question from Morrison Hendricks. Why the hell? I'm gonna kind of edit this a little bit. He probably typed it fast. Why the hell do those zombie apocalypse? Okay, why? Okay, I'm gonna read it the way he wrote it, and maybe you can decipher it. Why the hell those zombie apocalypse fever in games, movies, series will never end? I'm guessing it's why is there zombies?
Why is there so many zombies?
Yeah, like I mean, we brought up Red Dead, a little earlier, and
I know,
Red
and they've
Dead
been the
zombies.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, every bad guy has its sort of heyday, right? I mean, not that long ago it was vampires, which have mostly sort of died down. The problem with zombies is that it's all too likely. Not necessarily zombies per se, but that whole superbug, like that's a thing. Like that is all too possible, like any day now. So I think that that's part of the appeal is it's like, it's because it's so real that it's scary.
Right.
Like that's the scary part. You know what I mean? Like you're not really worried about Nosferatu knocking on your front door. But, that guy that just like hacked up a lung, is he all right? Like, it's patient zero right there? As a hypochondriac, let me tell you.
Well, because that's what it's kind of becoming, because zombies in modern culture, we've kind of ventured from the whole, the dead coming out of the ground. Like he says, great answer. But it's traveled from that to where, like you said, it's a super virus. 28 days later was a virus. The Walking Dead is a virus, even though it's not really given yet. And that's kind of where we're going. And I like that, again, same way you said, I like that a lot better than the whole, the dead are coming back to life. And it makes it, even if it's to the point where they're not, I mean, with The Walking Dead, it's still a little bit of that, it's a little bit of that fantasy element where somebody dies and then becomes reanimated, but it's because of a virus. Whereas you got something, like we had the, what was it, bath salts, which was very much a real life zombie situation, to the point where the person lost control of their actions and started eating people. I mean, that's about as real as it gets for zombies right about now.
Right.
So it's interesting, but no, I think that's it. It's that very real. I mean, it's the same reason there are so many things that fall and come back or fall forever, but then there are so many things that stay.
Right.
I think it's the same reason why for every single generation there's going to be a batch of terrorist movies, because terrorism is very real and very scary.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's why slasher films will always be popular, because it's a good possibility that at any given time there's a serial killer on the loose. And because these are so morbid thoughts, we get to use art to kind of make them entertaining in a way, so we can forget about how harsh reality can be sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Like, because, especially if you go with something like, take Shaun of the Dead, right? Like, so, all right, like the super virus, like this could be real and, like horrible things could happen. But, we can just go to the Winchester and have a pint and wait for this to all blow over.
Exactly. And they even refuse to use the Z word.
Yes. Yes, they did. I love those movies. Oh,
they are great movies. They are indeed. And Simon Pegg, I mean, what an amazing acting career he's gotten out of that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, now he's a key player in the Mission Impossible series. He is a key player in Star Trek. He's writing Star Trek 3. Or I guess Star Trek 3 too.
Star Trek 3 too.
But and he's great. And I really enjoy him. And, if Tom Cruise has a lot of respect for him, and if Tom Cruise has a lot of respect for him, I have a lot of respect for him, because he is my favorite runner in the world.
I love that movie. But, I like the Nick Frost, Simon Pegg duo. I like them. They're a good time.
Oh yeah, that's right, Archaic. Yeah, from Star Trek to Star Wars, he went from
Scotty
to the junkyard
guy.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I can't wait till some more of those hidden cameos come out. Like we had Daniel Craig.
Oh, the Daniel Craig one is my favorite, and that his call letters are
JB007. Yeah, that was awesome.
Like a little girl, because Daniel Craig is a dreamboat.
See, now look, we've got amazing questions coming from listeners, and JF just chimes in and says he wants ice cream.
Well,
he's about as useful in our chat room as he's on your show.
To be fair, JF always wants ice cream.
Of course he does. Why? It's cold
because
up there.
Yeah, all right, it is, but he's like trying to be healthy and stuff.
It won't
so
melt.
all he wants to do is eat crap.
He's trying to be healthy, so he wants to eat ice cream.
Yeah.
All right, we're falling.
Yeah, because he's not supposed to.
We're
fine.
falling. We're falling behind on. Oh, it was a Cornetto reference.
Yes, the Cornetto. Oh, all right. Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. I don't. Cornetto? Am I missing something?
Yeah, that's what those those Simon Pegg and Nick Frost movies. It's the Cornetto trio.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't follow them that. I'm not a fanboy, JF. Sorry, they're not Blizzard games. Falling behind in questions though. Which heathens? He says. Which was the best racing game you ever played? Are you a racing game fan?
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart.
But I'm talking like at the arcade, the big sit down. I actually was carjacked playing Mario Kart at the arcade once. It was a work party, all right. And I'm working retail, right? So I'm like one of the like 3 grown-ups that works in the store, and everybody else is like an 18-year-old kid, you know. And so we're having this work party, and it had been sufficiently long enough that the grown-ups could go away, and we didn't have to call it a work party anymore, so that we could have adult beverages. And so we'd had a few drinks, we're doing it, and so the kids were like, "Hey, come play Mario Kart with us." I was like, "Absolutely, I'm playing Mario Kart. I'm playing Peach. I'm in my little scooter, and I'm doing this." Next thing I know, my boss is like shoving me over in the seat, grabs the wheel, and he goes, "Keep your foot on the pedal." I was like, "I just got carjacked playing Mario Kart. I don't know what's happening right now." Yeah, we lost.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
I understand why arcades have kind of been phased out, but I kind of miss them in a way.
Yeah, that's why Dave and Buster's is a pretty good compromise. The food is not good, but the video games are great. It's like
Denny's with arcades.
Yeah. I don't know. I can drink there, so it's fine.
For my answer to that, if it comes to fun dicking around racing games, I would definitely say Mario Kart. I feel that when it comes to realistic games, the old school NASCAR games, like PlayStation 2 era before EA ruined them, those were a lot of fun. I have a buddy of mine who's obsessed with NASCAR, who swears by NASCAR racing like Christ, it might be 98. It was the last one made by, or no, I think it's 03 actually, but either way, it was the last one made by Papyrus before EA bought the NASCAR license. But because of such an amazing community, they've updated the graphics, they've updated the roster, they've updated the way the cars handle. Like, it's very modernized.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But as far as current racing games, I'm a really big fan of Forza 6 on the Xbox One. It's a lot of fun. It looks beautiful. The custom paint jobs that some amazing artists on there give cars is just phenomenal. And for arcade racing, you actually would do yourself a favor to check out the newest Need for Speed. If you have Xbox One and you have the EA access, you get a 10-hour trial, and it's a lot of fun. If not, I mean, it handles great. There's a lot of like live action video where they try and tell you a story in a racing game, which I don't get. But if you enjoyed like Need for Speed Underground or Need for Speed Underground 2, it very much is a throwback to those. And unlike the most recent Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which was the launch title for the for the current consoles, I think it was Most Wanted. Either way, whatever, one of the cop ones, where it was persistently online and that caused a lot of lag in the game. This one, you don't even notice it. It's completely seamless, and there's always people there. It's cool. Another question. In your opinion, which is the best soundtrack from games or movies of all time? So let's do games and movies. Let's not combine those. So best game soundtrack, best movie soundtrack.
All right. Well, game, it's no, you know what? I'm gonna go crazy on this one because my inclination is to say a Blizzard game. And Overwatch is certainly giving it a run for its money, from what we've heard so far. But I'm gonna go off the rails and say that it's Katamari. I have the deluxe 2-disc edition imported from Japan soundtrack collection from Katamari, and it's just
Katamari Damacy.
Yes, it's just batshit Japanese music.
The ball roll up
nonsense. Game? Yeah, it's great.
It was a great game.
Yeah, it's stupid, but it's amazing.
Think about the games we play. They're all stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's dumb.
Why not? My life is serious.
Katamari was a great game. I remember I looked at it one time. I'm like, this is what is this shit? Like, people who watch anime are gonna play this. I don't want to play this. And then I played it, and my God, is that addicting? It's like, oh my God, the ball's getting bigger and it's getting bigger and it's getting and you ended up making planets. And I heard but they came out with one for either 360 or Xbox One, and I heard it was a letdown, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it was. And like they put out one for iOS, and it's okay.
Right.
As mobile games go, but the PS2 is the heyday. I know they just released Parappa the Rappa on the PS4.
Really?
Yes.
That's exciting. The rhythm game before all rhythm games.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, well, you know what? Guitar Hero and Rock Band are back, so we might as well bring Parappa to Rappa back.
We've got it here. It's not like we're really updating anything.
Because if Geeks ever wanted to be anything, it was a ghetto rapper.
I did.
I would say for my favorite game soundtrack, I'm gonna cheat a little bit.
That's fine.
And say that I have a series, and I would say, as much as I love Russell Brower and as much as I love Blizzard, there is nothing in the world that beats Final Fantasy when it comes to game soundtracks.
Yeah, that's
because Square, now they've gone downhill ever since they merged with Enix.
Yep.
But if you talk early 2000s, early aughts, late 90s and before with Square, they were the Blizzard of the 80s and 90s. A game never sucked. Their CGIs were beyond belief. Like, they did things with the PS1 that nobody else could do with.
Right.
And their music was just phenomenal. I mean, even now, like on my personal game streaming, not the studio streaming with Twitch, but my game one with Twitch alerts, if you donate to it, you get the Final Fantasy victory music. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just so iconic.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows it.
Yep.
It's, and that steals it from me. All right. What about movie soundtrack?
That one's a little harder. I have a very soft spot in my heart for John Williams. I got to see him conduct the Boston Pops from the front row.
Oh wow.
So I'm gonna go with Harry Potter. That's gonna be my pick for those. It's gonna be Harry Potter. Those are. I mean, think about how you could hear that music anywhere in the world and you would know exactly what it was.
Right.
Like, you could be doing anything and you'd be like, it's happening.
I've only seen the first two movies. So I've read all the books, but I've only seen the first two movies. So I can't. I don't have an opinion.
Okay.
I'm sure it's amazing because everything about Harry Potter is amazing.
Yeah. But that'll be my pick
for movies. Now, again, this is a tricky one. Are we talking score or are we talking soundtrack?
I'm thinking they mean score.
Yeah. If it comes to score, Lord of the Rings, hands down.
All right.
And that's only because Star Wars is the obvious answer.
Yeah.
Star Wars, discounting
obviously.
Star Wars. Like, that's like saying, like, if you were to ask us who our favorite video game developer was, Blizzard couldn't be an option.
Yeah, like, we can't talk about that.
Yeah. So what's your favorite movie score that's not Star Wars?
Yeah.
And if I weren't to say Lord of the Rings, I would say anything by Tim Burton. Because Danny Elfman is amazing.
Danny Elfman, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. One of my favorite band is Avenged Sevenfold, and one of my favorite songs by them is A Little Piece of Heaven, which is off of their self-titled one. It is a song about murder and necrophilia.
Like you do.
It's 9.5 minutes long, and it sounds just like a Danny Elfman song.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And if you've never heard it, I highly suggest watching the music video. It will warn you in the beginning that it's not meant for young audiences. And just because I love the song so much, I'm going to explain a little bit. Because have you ever heard it?
No, okay. I don't know that I have.
You should check it out.
Right.
But the premise is a guy is going to propose to his girlfriend.
Yep.
But before she can answer, he's afraid she's going to say no. So instead of letting her say no, he murders her and keeps her body. In the video, there's an animation. It's an animated video, and it looks just like a Tim Burton movie. And there's a device in it called the Thigh Heater 3000 because she's dead. He doesn't want her to cool off. And one of the lines in the second verse is, now the ghost comes to repossess this body with which I misbehave. So then she ends up murdering him, and then they get married after death, and they get married in the afterlife. But before they do that, they go around and murder all their friends. That way their friends can join them in the afterlife and attend their wedding.
Well, yeah, why not?
It's a great song. But I'll never forget, I was at an Amado's, and you know what those are because you're in New England.
Yeah.
And I had it on, and it's a very amazing sounding song, like most Danny Elfman things. And I had my music up. I was a girl I was dating at the time was in Amado's getting something, and the lady came to the car and she goes, "That song sounds really cool. What is it?" I'm like, "Oh, it's by Avenged Sevenfold, but it's not their typical sound." She goes, "Oh, it sounds interesting." I'm like, "Yeah, it's about necrophilia."
You know,
yeah, and she just didn't know what to say. But yeah, that's my answer there. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Danny Elfman.
All right, those are legit.
Another question. You guys are awesome. Let me clarify. Morrison Hendricks is awesome because he's our questioner person. So you're awesome, dude. Thank you very much. I will say Archaic Rages said awesome movie, and then he from let's see, nice comeback with the Star Wars, and he says his wife runs to Little Piece of Heaven. I assume you meant Little Piece of Heaven. With the delay, it's hard to time your typing with my talking, but. So Morrison has another question. He said, in which way did, if at all, the movie The Matrix affect you back when it came out? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it?
I did. I enjoyed it back in the day. I mean, I was never like one of those crazy, like I didn't like change my life or anything. I wasn't oh my God, I'm gonna take the blue pill. No, I saw them. I liked them. It wasn't like.
Do you think we live in a Matrix?
No.
I would say The Matrix as a standalone is one of the greatest science fiction movies ever made. I would say The Matrix as a trilogy is one of the worst trilogies ever made.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
It gave us Hugo Weaving, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
He's been good.
I don't know. And then did you ever see the Reanimatrix?
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that? I'm not an anime fan, so I didn't really watch that one.
Yeah, I mean it was okay, but I mean it's part of the whole thing. I wasn't really in it in the to begin with, and then
right.
I'm like, all right, well, I sure watched that.
Fair enough. JF has a question to bring us back to cosplay.
Thanks, Jeff. Always looking out for me.
What's the one thing that you'd love to cosplay, but is likely impossible or close to? So you would need the IMF to complete it. Get Ethan Hunt on the case.
See, that's my problem or not my problem, but that's sort of part of it when I start thinking about cosplay. Like if I'm thinking about something from a cosplay perspective, I automatically sort of build in the can I do it? Because I don't deal with disappointment very well. So I like to set myself up for success. I don't think there's anything that like nothing immediately comes to mind that I couldn't do. I know, he's got his whole robot thing going, and I've actually seen people do some pretty amazing, should be impossible cosplays lately. So
yeah, what was that one at San Diego? Was it last year? Someone made the Hulkbuster.
Yeah. And I mean, there's people who, I'm also into some tabletop gaming, and there's not a lot of cosplay in that area yet. It's certainly growing, but the people who built Space Marine armor, people are doing crazy things, and I don't know that anything's really impossible. I don't know that I have any that are impossible to do that I can think of. There's a lot that I'm that's an awful lot of work. And I now have a natural distaste for body paint.
If you had to name a character and or costume right now that you think would be your hardest challenge, what would, out of the characters that you know and you're familiar with, what do you think would be the hardest challenge to accomplish right now?
I think all right. So if I'm going to pull from my actual list, here's my actual because I keep a little photo album on my Facebook page of here's all the cosplay I would love to do. I think right now my biggest challenge would be Sylvanas.
Oh yeah.
Just because she's got so much detailed armor work. Her weapon is super detailed. She has body paint, which scares me now. I think that's probably the most complex one I have on my list currently.
Right. And she's one that you have to get right because she's such
You have
an
to get it
iconic
right. Like
character.
if you, yeah. I mean, I would be disappointed. Like I'd be so sad if like I saw pictures of it and I was like, oh. And I mean, that's what I mean. I'm already willing to like I've already put stuff off because it wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to, and I mean, because I have a pretty high standard, and so I'm okay waiting. It's fine, but so I think on my list that's the hardest one so far.
Right. I have a question for you.
Sure.
As a cosplayer,
Yeah.
and as a female,
Mm-hmm.
I am wondering kind of where your opinion falls, and I don't know how to word this without it sounding wrong, so I'm just going to shoot for it.
Just go for it.
Do you kind of hold a difference between like legit cosplayers, like for example, like Harley's Joker? Are you familiar with him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Somebody like him, or somebody like somebody who's basically 90% tits. And like, you know, they take a legitimate character, like, you know, somebody who would take Captain Phasma and give her cleavage just to get attention. Right. Like, is there
all right. So I'm not one to knock anybody for like doing anything, like, because we can all be cool. Like, it's fine. We can all do whatever we want and we can be chill and everything. I'm not a big fan. I actually, so I know you've seen them because we've all seen them. So, you know, like Halloween time, especially, they come out with like the ridiculous, like slutty costumes.
Right.
And there was like the Chewbacca one, right? Like the mini skirt Chewbacca. We refer to them as looky Wookiees.
Did you see the slutty Donald Trump outfit?
Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, I mean, like there are certainly video game characters are certainly.
Well,
like,
yeah. I mean, you can't dress up.
They're built that way. You know what I mean? Like Sylvanas is naked. I want to do. Oh, yeah, that's another one. Alex Straza. I'm not gonna be that naked, but damn, that would be amazing.
Or, what about Widowmaker?
Oh, that's happening though. It terrifies me. It terrifies. It's over there. It's in process. It's happening. It scares the shit out of me, but I'm doing it.
What I've seen, and this is kind of how I've noticed it, is the difference between somebody who respects the cosplay and somebody who's showing off their body to get likes. The people,
and it's not even necessarily like a costume thing at that point, and it's like an attitude thing. And it's like I have a bigger problem with people who get all angry at people who like I watched. Did you watch? There was the Heroes of Cosplay show on, I think it was on Sci-Fi for a while. They only did like a couple seasons. It wasn't, you know. And Yaya Han, who's a big cosplayer, she was on there and she was sort of berating one of the other girls for being one of those girls that's always showing off, you know, her boobs. And I was like, wait a minute, hang on, that's what you do. Like, she's like, I mean,
she was berating her because she had better boobs than her.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, we can all have boobs. It's cool, guys.
Right.
The nerds will be happy. It's fine.
I was just kind of curious because I mean, I've made the joke all the time, you know, where like if I was a chick with a rack, I could make a living streaming, but because I'm not, I have to work harder to do it. Like there are girls who blatantly suck at League of Legends, who play League of Legends with their tits hanging out. Yeah. And they have hundreds of thousands of people watching them for that reason.
Yeah.
And as a dude, you got to be good at League of Legends or no one's going to watch you. And even then it's hit or miss. But I mean, I've seen it. And what I was going to say really quick was you can kind of tell the difference between the, hey, look at my body, or hey, I respect cosplay, because typically from what I've seen, if you have a costume like a Sylvanas or like a Widowmaker, oftentimes they'll wear skin colored bodysuits underneath the costume. Yeah. That way they're at least covered.
Yeah. Even if you're not, like, I mean, because Widowmaker, it's not actually a lot of skin. It's very selective skin, though. Right. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, they joked about that at BlizzCon. Like, yeah, I noticed we saw no Widowmaker. And it's funny how Blizzard's going the reverse direction. Terpster joked about this on the instance, but I'm going to steal the joke because it was funny. He goes, you look at what all these video game companies do, and what Blizzard is saying is if you pre-order Overwatch, we're going to give you a skin that has more clothes on.
More clothes, which excited me so much, if for no other reason than it's less body paint. I had a bad experience.
With what?
Bad. With body paint. It was a bad experience, and I'll cry if I talk about it.
I can't imagine it's all that. I feel bad for people like Gold Dust. I don't know if you watch wrestling or not, but
oh yeah,
like you get to get covered in gold paint every night.
I'll be thinking, and of course, so I keep falling in love with characters that have funny colored skin, and I'm like, but no, Widowmaker's happening. She's in pieces on my project table.
Fair enough.
It'll be. you know, I mean, I know I'm a cute girl. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I don't use that, but
Right.
it'll be my first time really kind of going out there. I'm kind of shy. I mean,
which,
like, it's hard to believe.
Well, I mean, we're geeks. We're inherently shy by nature.
Yeah.
That's why we talk to people on the internet, not in person.
It's way easier.
Unless we're at Nerdtacular or some other convention. So do you have an event lined up for, See, now I knew better than to bring this up, but somebody brought up DC Comics.
Oh boy.
See, I read the email you sent me, so I knew. But anyway, so do you have a particular event you're trying to get Widowmaker done for? Is it going to be a BlizzCon thing or?
No, I had wanted to have Widowmaker done for Nerdtacular because Chris Metzen was going to be there and Russell Brower and all that. But then it you know, I mean, it wasn't turning out the way I wanted, and I wasn't going to rush it. Especially where I was doing the shop, I didn't want to stretch myself too thin on either point. So I sort of had to pick my battles. So as of right now, I don't have a specific event for her. If I could get her done for PAX East this year, I will.
Right.
Because why not? I would love to go to BlizzCon, but so far I have no in, and I don't mind, you know, where I have this whole little business that I'm starting and things like that. I have a photographer friend who does my cosplay photography for me. And so I don't mind, even if I don't have a specific event in mind, I'll still do the costume. I'll put it together. And then if the event shows up that I get to wear it to, then spectacular. Like so much the better. But
yeah, BlizzCon.
You know, I'll do it for art's sake.
Have you been to a BlizzCon?
No.
It's amazing.
I want to.
It is. It's a really fun. It's a really expensive experience, but it's a really fun experience. So I'm going to take one last question from the chat room, and it was, in your opinion, why? Because we were talking about Final Fantasy.
Yep.
And he was saying, why is it that Final Fantasy games still have such a huge success? Like, of all the other games that have come and gone, all the other trilogies and series and whatever that have come and gone, Final Fantasy, from a game that was supposed to literally be the Final Fantasy, the guy was about to get fired and he was going to quit making video games, and he's like, screw it, I'll try one more, and then he establishes the greatest RPG series of all time, arguably.
Yeah.
So what is it about them that makes them still relevant?
I think that there's a certain level of nostalgia, because I mean, to a point, like if you've been playing video games, at some point you played a Final Fantasy game. You know, somewhere along your timeline, one of those games falls. So that's part of it. It's this pervasive, you know, in the same way that everyone has played Mario. You know what I mean? Like it's still, it's this constant. And because they've done such a good job with their world building, and, you know, their characters and those games tend to be, I mean, ever since we got past 8-bit graphics, you know, they're beautiful games. And I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, people like a game that they can sort of lose themselves in. I'm kind of doing that in Fallout right now. That's sort of I'm just going to go lose 4 hours of my life for a while. And oh, look, I built a town.
Have you finished it yet?
No, not yet. I'm sort of just cruising through.
As somebody who has, spend a lot of time on the side quests and
that's the plan.
Enjoy what the world has to offer, because I was so, and I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
But out of my own opinion, I was so disappointed with how predictable the end of the game was that it made me not want to go back into the game and do all the cool side stuff. It was.
No, I like the side stuff. The side stuff is good.
Oh, the side stuff was great.
I like finding the ridiculous Boston accents.
Yeah.
They're awesome. So yeah, so I think it's that whole big world, you know what I mean? And it's sort of also that constant, like, there's always going to be another one. Right. Like, even if they haven't said anything, like, you know, there's going to be another one.
Indeed.
So, you know, you have that, like, that safety net.
Even though we have, I mean,
it's going to be there.
You know, we have 13, which is kind of a black spot. And
yeah.
But I mean,
every series has that.
The thing about them, though, is they learn from them. And, and no, I mean, yeah, there's a large following that says 7's their favorite, and they would be the correct ones.
Right.
and I cannot wait for the remake. But there are people who love 8, which I felt like 8 was a little too much like a soap opera.
Yep.
It was like Dawson's Creek in Final Fantasy. Like there were school kids and one fell in love with his teacher, and like it was like Dawson's Creek.
But if that's your thing,
right? Yeah,
then
exactly.
You know what? Like that's the other part of it is that there's like, on that same path, there's like these little deviations. Right. So it's like, if this is kind of more your thing, well then you'll probably like this one.
And then to pay some homage to the classic ones with 9, they went back to the diehard fantasy setting.
Right.
But in my heart, one of my favorites, and was actually, one of my first serious video games, Final Fantasy IV, which was released here on the Super Nintendo as Final Fantasy II.
Yep.
Will forever be one of my favorites with, Kain and Cecil and Rosa and Zaramas as the final boss. And that was it was a great story. You had like the loss between, father and daughter, and it was because you had Tella, the old sage, and it was, how many other games from like the early 90s can I name that many names off from?
Right.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? And that's why they're still popular.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because they're iconic and they're memorable. They're not the one-hit wonder. I firmly believe that in 20 years we'll still be talking about Final Fantasy. I don't think in 20 years we'll still be talking about The Witcher. No. I don't think in 20 years we'll still be talking about, any other random. We're not going to be talking about Rocket League in 20 years.
No.
They're great now.
Right.
But they, will they stand the test of time?
Right.
I'm going to dive into a couple of email questions. Now, admittedly, we don't get that many because it's still a new show.
Right.
If you would like to email in and ask questions, you can do so by emailing mindofageekpodcast@gmail.com. You can go to inkedgeekstudios.com/mindofageek to get a list of our upcoming guests. And if you are familiar with any of them and want to ask them a question, go ahead and email it in. And we are, as some of you have noticed, we're doing it live now. So the live time is sporadic. But yeah, if you can't catch the live show, email in. This week, our 3 questions come from Mr. J.F.Dubeau.
I had that coming.
First question is your Etsy shop up yet?
Yes, it is, JF. My Etsy shop, you can get to it very easily by going to DanioraCosplay.com. That is DANIORA cosplay.com. Daniora is sort of my internet persona. Came out of the first RPG that I ever played, tabletop RPG that I ever played. It's a gypsy name that means born with teeth. So that's where that all comes from. So yeah, DaniораCosplay.com is my Etsy shop, and you can buy things there.
Cool. Go check it out. I've seen some of the stuff she makes. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Speaking of video content, do you have any plans for a YouTube or Twitch channel? It seems like he's asking you questions for things that you wanted to mention, and he was making sure you didn't forget.
Okay, so this is the great thing about my friendship with JF. He has this really. I'll tell him ideas. I'll bounce ideas off him. I go, hey, I have this idea. I have this thing. I think I'm going to do this thing, and then he will publicly shame me until I get it done, and I'm a fan of that. So yes, in fact, Mr. Dubeau, I plan on having both a Twitch stream and a YouTube channel in the near future. Once the Overwatch beta comes back, I am going to stream it on behalf of our podcast so that our poor fans who cannot play will get to see.
Look what we got.
It's also going to force me to, I'm going to do like a lot of viewer requests and stuff. So it's going to force me to not play Lucio, which will make him very happy. And then I mentioned earlier that I have a blog called The Nerdly Home, which is sort of my cooking, crafting, sewing sort of thing. And I'm kind of bringing that back in a new form. I'm actually starting a YouTube show. It's going to be called, it's going to be a show about beverages of the adult nature. It's going to be called The Nerdly Home Presents The Nip Slip. And every episode I will have a nip of some variety of alcohol. We'll talk about where it comes from, what you do with it, and then depending on whether it's a cocktail or whether you drink it straight, we'll mix it up, have a drink, and we'll see how things go.
So you're gonna have a cocktail on a show called Nip Slip.
Yeah, the Nip Slip. So there's that. So that's all coming soon. I'm excited about it.
No innuendo there at all.
None.
And his last question is, when are you going to put up your Tad Santa video?
I know. I'm so bad. I didn't do one this year. I owe everyone a wink too. All right, I'll do it this week.
All right.
Fine.
You heard it. It's live now. It's recorded.
I know. Now, see, this is what I'm saying. I say I'm going to do things, and then he'll just publicly shame me until it gets done.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Now he has you on record saying you'll do it this week. And for the record, it is the week of January 4th.
It is the week of January 4th.
So she will do it this week.
I will. It's happening. God damn it, JF.
Well, a big thank you to JF for emailing in.
Thanks,
And a
JF.
big thank you to everyone that participated live. If you would like to watch this show live, you can follow twitch.tv/Inked Geek Studios. Now, this show is interesting. Those of you that are fans of Geek Access know that we do the same time every week. With Mind of a Geek, I try and fluctuate it because I basically work the schedule of the show around the schedule of the upcoming guest. That way I am able to have more guests on for your listening pleasure. Lately, it's been 8:30-ish on Monday nights. Last week, we recorded at 10 a.m. So it's just all over the place. So if you follow the Twitch channel, you can follow along live. You can also find us on any of your pod feeders, whether it be iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, Downcast. Oh, so many of them. Stitcher we're on, Feedburner, I think, maybe. If you want more information about the shows that we do, you can go to inkedgeekstudios.com. If you want to help support the studio and what we do, you can go to patreon.com/IG Studios. And lastly, if you are a fan of Minecraft, Ark, Survival Evolved, or Rust, head on over to tiny.cc/IG Gaming, which will bring you to our Inked Geek Gaming subgroup and give you a list of all of our servers as well as our TeamSpeak server. And we would love to see you on there and come hang out and play some games with us. Amy, I know you've listed them a couple times, but just so they're all condensed into one little small section, where can our lovely listeners find you?
All right. If you want to listen to JF and I speculate and rant and all of the other wonderful and rave and all the other wonderful things we do about Overwatch, you can find our podcast at overcastpodcast.com or again on anywhere where fine podcasts are downloaded. If you are interested in my cosplay, the Etsy store is located at danioracosplay.com, DANIORA. Or you can follow my Facebook page, which is where I post all of my in-progress stuff and all that cool stuff. And that is facebook.com/Daniora Cosplay. And everywhere else on the internet as Daniora on places like the Twitter.
Very good, very good. Well, a big thank you again to our live audience. A big thank you to you for coming on. It was great. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. This was awesome.
I appreciate it. This experiment of mine is becoming a success, and it makes me happy. I like it when experiments work.
I love it when a plan comes together.
We don't have an official guest lined up yet for next week, meaning there are people, but I don't know who's coming on next week. But, follow the show, follow the studio, and make sure you subscribe if you're a podcast listener. We've got the likes of Hammond Chamberlain from Grumpycast, Andrew Main, who is part of Andrew Allen. The Andrew Allen. Oh, yeah, there we go. Andrew Allen from the Andrew Allen trio. I emailed Andrew Main. I'm hoping to get him too because I love his books. Andrew Allen from the Andrew Allen trio, who has an amazing Star Wars album that he put out.
Yes.
And a bunch of other people are coming up too. I'm blanking because I don't have the list right in front of me, but there's a lot of really cool guests. So again, inkedgeekstudios.com/mindofageek to check out our list of upcoming guests. Leave a comment. Let us know if you like the show. And I think that'll do it. So awesome. For Amy and for myself, have a great night. What the hell, Soundbite? It did this on yesterday's show, too. Soundbite not responding.
The following episode of...
No, wrong one. Let's try this again. Have a good night. Damn, Soundbite. Gotta love that live to hard drive, huh?
It was all going so well, Tom.
JF will tell you, did the same exact thing on last week's show. And scene.